LL Nation.
Ooh.
Culture Friday. Let's get to it. There's levels to this. We won't stop. You
We
know
kicked
how
it
it
up a
is.
notch.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Lucky
Yeah.
Lefty Podcast. Brought to you by Onora Whisky. OnoraWhisky.com. It's that premium American whiskey.
Premium.
OnoraWhisky.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure that you drink
Responsibly.
got to. All right.
Man,
Today,
that intro was fire, man.
Absolutely. Hey, bro. Hey, bro. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked it. Let's get to it today. Usually on Thursdays, Malik gives his 3 keys. Unfortunately, he was out doing some things, talking to the kids yesterday, inspiring the youth. So we're going to allow him to give his 3 keys. Coming up at the top of the hour is For the Culture Friday. And we actually have a question today for the culture that was sent to us by one of our day ones, our girl D Beezy. Shout out to D Beezy out in the SB. Question of the day for the culture: who gets you in the mood better, Erykah Badu or Jilly from Philly? Erykah Badu or Jilly from Philly? Battle of the Beast today for the Culture Friday. I had to think about that one, bro.
Gotta think about it.
I had to think about that one because that Erykah Badu son of a gun.
Erykah Badu and her latest, some of her latest stuff.
Yeah,
she got a vibe to it.
Because initially I was like, okay, Jilly.
Yes.
And I really had to take a step back and think about it.
Erykah Badu got the classics that like anybody can say a couple words and you just break out in the whole song.
For sure.
That's rare. That's
for
rare.
Sure. And also former NFL running back Thomas Jones. Now
big dog,
big time actor, right? You've seen him on, Mary Jane. You've seen him in the movie Straight Outta Compton, Comanche, in the Luke Cage series.
That's right.
Now he has a big time series called Life After, docu-series talking about 12 retired NFL players and their transition from the game. He's going to be joining us shortly.
That's right.
Let's start the show. Let's talk about what's happening Saturday night, prime time. The first of 2 prime time matchups at home. This one, and then we have the Clemson game coming up, bro. Malik, your 3 keys to victory: Notre Dame, Stanford, 6:30, Notre Dame Stadium. 3 keys to victory.
First key, I got to see the passing game come alive. I want to see 3 different receivers with touchdowns. I think that dynamic and aspect in the game is going to open up that run game heavy for us if we have 3 passing touchdowns by 3 different guys. I think if we accomplish that, that'll be a huge key to victory because the storyline and the Stanford defense will have a lot to answer for allowing that to happen, knowing that we're going to run the ball regardless. The second thing, we have to have more rushing yards than them. I think if we beat them on the stat sheet in the rushing category, yards per attempt, but more so total yards in the run game, if we have more than them, I believe that's a key to victory. And lastly, defense. Let's have some good red zone defense. I'd like to see us have over or have Stanford under 30% in the red zone. We know that they can push the ball down the field just because they can run it. They can get those easy third and short yardage. But let's be a bend but don't break defense. Hold up in the red zone. Allow them under, let's say, 40% percentage in the red zone. Make it hard. Make them throw it over your head. I think they have a really good scheme with the option, the way they run it, the RPO, where they allow the guy to run all the way to the line of scrimmage almost. It's like a draw player. So it's weird how they do it, but they get a lot of one-on-one. So our secondary is going to get challenged on the run play action. The RPOs. And it's gonna be a good game, a good challenge for the linebacking core to play your responsibility. You come up too fast, they're gonna throw right behind you. If you play too soft, that Stanford has a great run game. So it's gonna be a good battle. But I think we do have a even quarterback situation on both sides of the football. So it's about who executes the most.
Yeah, all-time series, Notre Dame leads 22-13. They'll be going for their fourth victory in a row over the Cardinal. They haven't had 4 consecutive victories in the series since 2002 through 2008. They have had a 3-game streak from 2009 to 2011, and once again 2015 to 2017, going for their 4th win in a row to get the Legends Trophy. Do you guys even think about these trophies that you battle and get, the shillelagh and all of that stuff, when you face USC, Stanford? Do you hold it up in the locker room, run around, take pictures with it, or is it pretty much just like, nah?
Well, it's cool because they sit in the office. Well, they used to sit in like the office where when you go on a training table talking coaches, you can see them sitting there. And when we lose them, you see them not sitting there. So after you win them, with Coach Kelly was never hyped up as much as it is at like Bama, where we all lighting cigars in the locker room after the Tennessee win or something. It's been more of like, yeah, we won, but that game is important on getting to the playoffs. So it's a little different, but we love beating our rivals. And the times that we've had those games has been on the line of playoffs. In 2015, we had Stanford at Stanford. That was a playoff game for us, even though it was a rivalry. We lost in the last second. We felt it more on a playoff contention rather than we lost the rivalry. So it'll be interesting. I think Marcus Freeman, because he's such a players coach type of guy, he'll invest into winning that trophy and making it about winning that rivalry for sure.
It's amazing when you think about how far this team has come since the loss to Marshall. Right now, they sit 7th in the nation. If I'm not, no, 11th in the nation in time of possession. And that bodes well as they continue to grow offensively. This should be a pretty fast game, right? Both teams are top 10 in penalties. These teams don't really commit penalties. Notre Dame had 1 penalty last week. Stanford is ranked, I think, 4th. Notre Dame is 7th in penalties in the nation. So expect, with running games on both sides and no penalties, that clock is going to continue to run. So it'll probably be a pretty fast game. And like you said, Stanford gives up 219 yards on the ground defensively left. Audric Estime is averaging 6.3 per rush. This is not a good matchup for Stanford and David Shaw. They have to come up with some really big plays and cause a lot of turnovers, in my opinion, to be able to make this one close.
Yeah, it's they're gonna have to do a lot more than we would have to win the game. Yeah. So I think executing at the highest level, like we've been doing BYU, like we've been doing North Carolina, and even in the practice during the bye week, taking these reps and getting the reps over and over again at the same rate of what we want to do offensively will be great. Running the football is always going to be a staple in each and every game. So finding different ways to run, different personnel, different looks, but you still running the football. As long as that's a main ingredient to our offense, Drew Pine can feed off of that, especially if the running game is weighing on a heavy factor in our offensive game. So that, as long as that's good, Drew Pine will be fine as long as the spotlight is not shifted to he's got to bring us back down 14 or something.
Yeah, and his efficiency right now over the last 2 games is sitting at 7th in the nation, which is fantastic for Drew Pine. When you go back and look at that the first quarter against Cal, and what he looked like and the way he's playing now, you have to feel pretty good. Also on the line, Michael Mayer has 29 straight games with at least 1 reception. And I think that streak's pretty much going to run all the way out until he's played his last game at Notre Dame. You have to feel good about this young man, the captain that he is, the leader that he is for this program right now. And we're looking for him to continue to dominate the same way he dominated against BYU.
Michael Mayer's having a great season. This is just what happens when the offense is about you. And this is what happens when you go to a place that's the right fit. Michael Mayer, great tight end, goes to tight end U at University of Notre Dame. He's the X factor for the offense. So the ball and the offense goes through him. And you see what happens when you get a great talent and the right fit. It's success.
Yeah.
So to all recruits, go to somewhere where you fit. Go to somewhere where it's that position university or whatever, be able to thrive in a good system, because when you can get the right fit and it comes your way, a lot of guys talk about what they would have done if it would have went their way. Go to the right fit. Michael Mayer is showing why the fit is about him, and he's looking great. I mean, he's blocking, he's play action, and he's getting behind defense. He's one-on-one, he's running the ball, and Tommy is going to keep feeding him. So as long as that keeps happening, I mean, Michael Mayer is going to have a Hall of Fame type career at Notre Dame.
Look for this defensive line to make an imprint on this game. Notre Dame currently sits 18th in the nation in sacks per game at 3 per game. And then the Cardinals surrender 4 sacks per game. That ranks 128th out of 131 FBS teams. So, man, like you said, the Cardinals are going to have to do a lot to stay in this game because the stats don't bear out. 18 points is a lot of points to give away. Notre Dame is minus 18, according to Vegas, going into this game. We leave a lot of points on the field left. Do you think that trend continues against Stanford?
I don't. I think for especially defensively, this is a game to give us some more street cred as a defensive unit. The country knows this team, Stanford, as an offensive juggernaut from running the football with heavy and 3 or 4 tight ends, and they're going to maul you and play action you to death and run. All these great running backs. But this is going to give us street cred. Amendola, Foskey, Mills, Cross, all those guys. It's going to give them some street cred in the country that, if we're dominating the Stanford offensive line and those tight ends in the run game, people are going to be a little worried. USC is going to hear about that.
Yeah.
Clemson's going to hear about that. Oh, they stuffing Stanford's D-line with all them 3 tight end sets and 2 tight end motioning and heavy sets, and they stifling that. Oh, that spells something different, because they know the secondary is coming up. I believe we have a better secondary than Clemson, but for our front seven to get some street cred and some respect of stifling that Stanford O-line, I think it'll go a long way for confidence and finish the season right in big games,
For the Culture Friday right here, Lucky Lefty Podcast, Shaun Davis, the original Lucky Lefty, Malik, Zaire. Excited to have our next guest coming up in a moment on For the Culture. When I tell you, he represented everything when he was in this town, bro. We're going to get to it, talk about his upcoming docuseries premiering on Amazon Prime, Life After, that follows the career of 12 retired NFL players. We'll talk to him about that and more. Coming up next is For the Culture Friday, Lucky Lefty. You know how we do it. We spin it different. We're back, Lucky Lefty Podcast. We have in the building former NFL running back. Let me tell you something, man. You got to do your research on this guy. He deserves a lot of credit. We're going to run down the stats, bro. When he retired, he was top 25 in the NFL.
That's right.
Top 25 all time, bro. Over 10,000 yards. You hear what I'm saying? Not only that, he's got that SAD card. We talk about he has that sad
That's a lot per month. I'm still weighing in on if I'm getting mine. I already know that's for them.
He has that sad card. And not only that, I don't know if you knew this, bro. Did you know that he was nominated with the 2020 class of the Hall of Fame? He was a nominee. Did you know that? A lot of people didn't know that.
A lot of
So
people
we
didn't know
welcome
that.
into the Lucky Lefty podcast. We just stopped short because there's a lot of illustrious things that we could talk about with this man's career. But we'll stop right there. We welcome into the Lucky Lefty podcast, Thomas Jones. T. Jones, welcome in, my brother. How you doing?
Big dog.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it, man, and I'm happy to be joining you, fellas.
Absolutely. Tell us, man, like how's things been going? I see the illustrious career behind you. You see it even in the pictures, but you continue to keep evolving, man. And we just talk about the evolution and the nonstop since Notre Dame.
Well, I mean, I honestly, man, when I retired in 2012, I was burnt out from football. I played football since I was 8 years old, and I retired at 33. So I had a long football career, and I was like, man, what am I going to do next? And I just didn't have any idea. I didn't have anything that I loved as much as football. So, I was in this weird space of trying to figure out what to do next, where to go. Friends and family started disappearing. I mean, it was just a weird time, I fell into acting, which is how I got the SAG card, and that initial opportunity for acting is what kind of sparked everything else that's happened up until this point. So yeah, I'm in a good space, man. I'm evolved a lot since the NFL, as a person, as a man, and as an entrepreneur as well. So yeah, I'm excited about some of the things I have coming up. You're on mute. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yo, I'm telling Malik he's on mute, and I'm on mute. My apologies. The docu-series, you talk about big things coming up, and this is huge. Life After. Right. Amazon Prime, October the 18th. We all know, being stationed in Chicago here, man, I've seen the evolution of a guy like yourself and like Spice Adams. Just talk about the series. Spice Adams is one of the guys that you follow and talk about in this series. Mm-hmm. Talk about the difficulty for these NFL players to transition and find something after giving so much to the game, just as you talked about.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of misconceptions around NFL players, and a lot of it has to do with money solving all their problems and everybody's problems, and that's just not the case. A lot of guys make a significant amount of money, but everyone, they're not millionaires. They didn't sign huge contracts, and everyone doesn't have a passion outside of football. Football players just like everyone else. We're still trying to figure it out. And once you retire from something that's such a huge part of your life, sometimes it's hard to find something else that you're passionate about, and also depending on how you leave the NFL. A lot of guys don't leave the NFL on their own accord. A lot of guys are released, and so they don't have the opportunity to even get back on the team. There's a lot of guys now that are still in the state of depression because they didn't feel like they got everything out of their system in the NFL. So there's a psychological and emotional element to being an NFL player, especially once you retire, and retiring so early. Most people don't retire from their career at 27, 28, 30, because retirement is not just a word, it's a mindset. So a lot of guys struggle once they retire to find something new, to find something that they feel validates them as a person. Because once you walk into a stadium and you have hundreds of thousands of fans, cheering your name and excited for you to perform and rooting for you, that becomes your value in a way. That becomes who you are. And then once you retire, it's a totally different life. You don't have that same dopamine release of the crowd and scoring touchdowns and being in the locker room and that environment. And so a lot of guys have a hard time emotionally and psychologically adapting, and that's what this series is about.
I'm going to ask you a question, man, and I don't even know. I'm excited to hear how you answer it, because I hear football players consistently say, the game has given me so much. What is the game taking away from you, bro?
Oh man, that's a great question. In a lot of ways, the game takes some humanity away, because it's such a violent game, high stakes, in intense pressure at all times, and then you're constantly battling injuries, and so there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about with us, because a lot of people want to do is they want to see you play. They want to see you be successful, make plays, entertain them, and win. And that comes with the job. We know this when we sign up for it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we're still human and still have emotions and still go through the same thing everyone else goes through. So, when you retire, you're left with your injuries. You're left with trying to find something to substitute football. Football for most people is like it's a relationship. It's not just a game or a sport. You're in love with this sport, almost to the point to where you're obsessed with it. That's all you can think about. It's what you're doing all year round is training to be the best you can for the season, to eventually either make it to the NFL, or once you're in the NFL, make a Pro Bowl and All-Pro selection, or win the Super Bowl, or get a big contract. So there's always something bigger than you to fight for at all times. And then when you retire, that's not there anymore. So you have to make sure you're figuring out who you are as a person outside of football. And that means psychologically, that means mentally, emotionally. You have to find something that can snap you out of that world of obsession with football.
Was
Once
there
again, go ahead, Left.
you talk about that reset when you were retired, in a sense, and that mindset? Did you have to cut off that football side of you to get yourself back and find that value back in yourself, where you didn't watch football, you didn't talk to people about football, you didn't talk to even some of your friends, because
Right.
you like, I gotta, that's compartmentalized in a way? Or was it more like, I could watch it and kind of be around it, but I'm still grieving through it, kind of?
For me personally, I always saw myself as not just a football player. Football, I always looked at it as football's my job. It's not who I am. But once I retired, and I realized gradually that, whoa, this is really over. I don't have an off-season program coming up in 2 months. I don't have a locker room to go to anymore. I don't have guys to build with and work with and go, to war with anymore. It's a sense of isolation.
That's what it
So,
feels.
so I quickly found out that no, you're a football player too. Different. And even someone like me who thought that I wasn't just a football player realized that I was, because that's how much the impact football had on my life, and how much I dedicated my life and time to it. And also, like I said, I was one of the people that quit on my own accord. I was 12 years in, and I was like, man, I had the possibility to play one more year. The Giants wanted to sign me, and I just said no, because I just didn't have the competitive spirit anymore to go out there and take a chance on breaking my neck or breaking my leg for more yards to pad my stats. So consider guys that were cut and were begging their agents to get them another opportunity, and they just never got on another team. What did that look like for them? That's a totally different situation. And so I can empathize with them and I was someone that left on my own accord.
But when did it stop becoming important to be like, oh man, I need 100 more yards here, or I got to get this much money, just a little bit more? Like, when did it stop becoming that important? Because a lot of guys, like you said, it's that transition from, oh man, I'm in here, I'm trying to get established, to, man, I'm here trying to get out of this.
It never stopped. I still have dream. I had a dream of probably about 4 or 5 months ago that I was going to go back for one more year so I could get to 11,000 yards. I mean, it never stops. It never stops. It's a mind game that you play with yourself in your mind, because you're constantly competing at all times. And if you're not competing with someone at your position, you're competing with another team, or you're competing with yourself. How can I be better? How can I get more yards, get more stats, pass this guy up on the all-time rushing list, pass that guy? I need this many yards to be past this guy, and I need this many yards to beat this guy. It becomes internal. It goes from you wanting to just have a dream of being in the NFL to once you're in the NFL to wanting to be successful and make money and win a Super Bowl, to becoming all about you and the addiction and the dopamine release you get from the actual game, being in a locker room, being around the guys, traveling, getting your itinerary for the week. It becomes an obsession and an addiction. And that's why you see guys like Tom Brady that just can't
let it go.
Yeah, Brett Favre, when he was retiring, then he comes back. Then he retires, and he comes back. It's hard for guys, and a lot of fans. We released a trailer for this a few days ago, and most of the comments and feedback has been, I cannot wait to see it. But it's interesting to see some people who are like, these guys are multimillionaires, and what are they whining about? It's like, well, first and foremost, everybody's not a multimillionaire that plays in the NFL. Number one, and number two, the guys that are multimillionaires, I mean, they earn the money based off of the job description. So that's, no one gave them anything. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. So the employees are going to make millions to make the corporations billions. That's how it works in anything, So it's just interesting to see how what some people anticipate post-career for NFL players being. Everyone goes off to this deserted island, put their feet up, and they're eating grapes. And it's like, no, to play that long and to make that amount of money and to be that successful, you have to be obsessed with football. You're not going to play the NFL a decade, 7, 8, 9, 10 years plus in the NFL and not be obsessed with the game. It's too hard. It's just too hard. It's too hard of a job to do. And so you're left with the residuals of that when you retire. And that's what this docuseries is about. It's about these 12 guys and watching how they individually figured out how to move past the obsession with football.
Was it therapeutic for you to go through this process? Just kind of seeing the other guys, their stories. Did you find out certain things? I mean, you played with Spice, dude. So did you find out certain things about Spice that you didn't know that just kind of made you sit back and say, man, you know what? I need to be at a place of either gratefulness or thankfulness. Even though I want to be a little bit further ahead, I'm thankful that I've gotten to this point through the struggle, because it could be worse, or I could be dealing with something else that someone else is struggling with.
I had my own struggle. When I retired, I was literally, I felt by myself completely, because I didn't have a wife, I didn't have kids, I didn't have anything, and my family and friends and people around me started to change drastically, and I realized that a lot of people, family and friends, weren't who I thought they were, and so not only do I not have football in the locker room, at least I have my friends and my brothers in the locker room. Now I don't even have certain friends or family members that I have the same relationships with. So it became more and more about me and how am I going to figure this thing out individually, and as opposed to just even having a team around me. And so probably for the first 8 to 10 months after I retired, the first thing I went drinking in the morning was be a Corona, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I wasn't a drinker. I was always an in shape guy. I was a social drinker, but I was on the verge of becoming an alcoholic. Because that was the only thing that could help me feel better about my situation. And it had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with access. It just had everything to do with internally. Who am I? I'm retired. I'm 33 years old. I don't have anything else that I love. It's not that I don't have access to things. It's I don't have the ambition. That's what a lot of the guys struggle with. It's finding the drive and the ambition to even try. So it's the docuseries as I produced it and worked with the different players. Some of the guys I played with, some of the guys I played against, some of the guys I didn't know. It was very therapeutic, like you said earlier. It was very therapeutic because I was able to first realize that I'm not the only one, and number two, really see how other guys found a way to overcome those obstacles, which was very inspiring for me.
So, when you get into acting, Thomas, you walk through the airport, people see you, and you're no longer Thomas. Somehow, some way, people call you by a certain name that relates to a character you've played. I mean,
Right.
look, Shameless, Straight Outta Compton, Mary Jane, the list goes on and on of all the shows you've been on. What's the one name you get when you're out in public from fans and people?
Oh man. I wouldn't say I get one name more than the other, to be honest. Some people will say Cuddy Buddy from being Mary Jane, and that was 8 years ago, I think, when I did that. Or Luke Cage, Comanche, and now P Valley series on Stars. My character is Maine, and then I have my own TV series, Johnson, Omar. But I would say if I get anything the most, it's funny. I was in Straight Outta Compton. I only had 3 lines in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And everybody knows those 3 lines, and they'll come up to me out of nowhere and be like, "Have a good night, Jerry." And I'm like, I had no idea that small little role that I booked. I mean, my character in Straight Outta Compton didn't even have a name. When you go on IMDb and you look at my character Straight Outta Compton, the name of the character is Large Man. It's not even. It's a random guy that just popped up. And when I went on the audition for that, it was like 50 big guys. I wasn't even the biggest guy in there, and it was 3 lines. And so I did the audition, and I walked out. I was like, man, I mean, this is a crapshoot. They got 100 dudes around, big dudes, and they could pick anybody. And they called me the next day and were like, "Hey, we'd like you for the role." And I was like, "Okay." And then I was like, "It's 3 lines." I thought maybe it was more than that. Just the audition lines were only 3. I was like, "No, it's 3 lines for real."
It's 3 lines.
Yeah. So I went out there, I said my lines, and I think I went to I don't know, I went to grab something to eat after that, and I completely forgot about it until
it showed up.
I saw it in the movie theater. And I was like, whoa, because I didn't even know where that scene fell in the script, because I didn't get the entire script. It was such a small role that I didn't even get the entire script.
Yeah, you just like shot a scene real quick. He's
shot a scene and just left. And then, when the movie came out, I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. And I watched it, and then it got a little weird in the theater, and it was like kind of quiet, and I was watching just like everyone else, and then I'm like, whoa, that's me, it popped up on the screen. So it was cool, but that's probably what I get the most is people coming up saying Jerry. They'll say Jerry, or they say have a good night, Jerry. So yeah, that's probably what I get the most.
Let me tell you something. He killed that, bro.
Yeah, you definitely killed it.
Thank you, though. Every ounce of acting that you've practiced or been dealt with a teacher or just rehearsed lines, everything that had been put in you to that point, you pulled it out for that. Because I was sitting in the theater like, yo, I know this dude as an athlete and this is not the dude. He's
Yeah.
making me believe that he is a West Coast dude
Yeah.
that's ready to put in some work. If Jerry doesn't act right, man, you killed the role. And that's probably why people relate to it so much, because of the way you killed it. It was like the cigarette, everything, the mannerism, the pauses, you killed it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And I at that was initially when I started acting, taking it serious, and I moved to LA. And I enrolled in an acting studio, really good acting studio, and so it was perfect timing because I just started learning the Ivana Chubbuck is a world-renowned acting coach, and Franz Turner. I started working with them, and so that's when I really started becoming an actor. So whether it was 3 lines or 30 lines, I approached each scene the same with the same commitment, and using the technique that I was taught. And a lot of times, sometimes the less lines you have, the better, because it gives you more of an opportunity to really take each line and breathe it and live it, as opposed to multiple lines where people are used to seeing you. So if you have 3 lines, it's like, hey, I got to make my presence felt here, and luckily I was able to do that in the film.
Man, it sounds like the transition of the love of the craft, like just like football, you seem to try to transition or shift towards acting. Is that kind of been that ambition that you've kind of been searching for in your way out of retirement?
Yeah, definitely. Acting gave me something that was challenging, that was fresh, it was new. It allowed me to meet new people and work with new people that had different perspectives on life. It gave me an opportunity to be in LA, which I wasn't really a big LA fan, because when I played for the Arizona Cardinals, I was back and forth between Phoenix and LA because honestly, things weren't that good in Phoenix, and so I would take trips to LA just to kind of get away. But I'm from Virginia, from the East Coast, so I would have preferred to been on the East Coast. Culturally, it was a lot more comforting
Yeah,
for me, it's what I'm used to. But
straight up.
but once I was traded to Tampa Bay in 2003, and then I went to Chicago and New York, I was pretty much on the East Coast and Midwest from there on out. But I needed LA at the time. I needed to just distance myself from everybody, and that was a way for me to distance myself from football as well, because there are football fans in LA, but when you're in Hollywood, it's all about Hollywood.
Yeah, they don't care nothing about no.
Yeah,
It's Hollywood.
yeah, they're about the craft in Hollywood, and then there aren't a lot of NFL players like in Hollywood. They're obviously now the Rams and the Chargers are there, but they weren't there when I moved to LA. So at the time it was all Hollywood. So man, I changed my name. I added my middle initial to my name, Thomas Q Jones. So a lot of people didn't even realize that I was the same person that played in the NFL, which was what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure I was giving myself the best opportunity to reinvent this myself and become this newer version of Thomas Jones, number 20, as Thomas Q Jones, the actor, producer, and just the new person, new man.
Sort of like 50 Cent, man. He had an illustrious rap career and then transitioned into the acting and the movies and production. So it's like you the 50 Cent of Notre Dame, man. Just keep going.
Yeah, 50's done a great job, man. And he understands his brand, and he understands his fan base, and it's similar to me. I wanted to make sure that people took me serious as an actor, and so I didn't. There were a lot of football opportunities that popped up for me in acting, and I turned them down because
Really? So you didn't take the cameo roles type of like background
no,
stuff.
no, because I think
Okay.
that would have been counterproductive. It's like you're still staying in that football space, as opposed to just completely separating myself from football altogether, adding the middle initial to my name, really only associating with people in Hollywood, and living this aspiring artist life, as opposed to being a football player that's now trying to act in Hollywood. That's not going to work, because while I was playing for the Bears, someone was in Juilliard, someone was taking singing lessons, or all the years I put in football, there's people that put those years in acting, child actors, and so there's a lot of competition. I have to compete with these people, not just in auditions, get an audition, but in acting classes. Now, if you're not good enough in some of these acting classes, they don't even want your money. They don't even want you to pay. They're like, hey, this isn't this class for you. You may need to go take a beginner's class, but you can't be in here. It's a very competitive, nostalgic business to be in. And if you don't take it seriously, you won't make it, because even if you take it seriously, you still probably won't make it.
Yo, honestly, and we talk college football all the time. I don't know if you guys saw this. There's a video that's going viral. Deion Sanders spoke to his Jackson State team yesterday, and he was like, look, they don't want me to tell you the truth, but I'm going to tell you the truth. It's a lot of y'all in here that's not going to the next level.
Right.
And you better take these books serious. And just in that, I think what you just said, Thomas, kind of relates to what you experienced in football your whole life, man. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to become a big-time player on the college level, transitioning from high school, and then to go from there and become a guy that can be nominated for the Hall of Fame as a running back and be top 25 in rushing yards. Like, that's not easy. The competition is crazy. And it sounds like the journey for you has pretty much duplicated it in film, the way you had to go through it in your football career.
No, you're right. It's very hard because the stakes just get higher and the competition just gets more intense, and the opportunities get smaller. Yeah. The room for error gets smaller as you continue to climb, which means you have to be more disciplined. You have to work even harder. You have to be even more focused, because it's a daily grind. You see us on Sundays, but usually you don't see us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's where the work's done. By the time you get to Sunday, you should be like, hey, like my old football coach used to say, the hay's in the barn. So now Sunday, it's time to go out there and play. So it's making it to Sunday. Sundays is a privilege. Sundays, to make it to Sunday is a privilege, because you got to get through practice, you got to get through, weightlifting, treatment, any injury you had in the previous week. Also in practice, if I drop balls in practice, if the coaches are looking like, are you okay? If I go the wrong way in practice, they're like, is he okay? If I miss an assignment or if I miss a read as a running back, the coaches, we get graded on all that stuff. You get graded every day. And depending on how your practice week is going to determine how many reps you're going to get in the game.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking we have to look after our interest, which is the team. If I fumble in practice on Wednesday and I fumble again on Thursday, they're kind of looking at me sideways. That means whoever the backup is, they're like, hey, you might need to get ready because something's going on with this guy and we need you to play on Sunday. Or if a guy's hurt or injured, and there's only going to be 2 running backs, they let you know, hey, this guy might not be able to play, so it's only going to be you. There were times, especially when I played for the Jets, that Leon Washington and I were the only 2 running backs on the roster. the only two running backs on the entire roster. So in 2007, they were probably for more than half of the season, we were the only 2 running backs on the roster. Eric Mangini cut all the fullbacks, and he just kept the tight ends. And the tight ends would play tight end and they would play H-back when we would run out of 2-back formations. But yeah, Leon and I, in warm-ups before the game, it would be Jimmy Ray, our running backs coach, and Leon and myself. And
I just chatting. Yeah, like
yeah, it's like it's just me and you the whole game. And he's got to do punt returns and he's got to do kickoff returns. And I have to do first down, second down, and short yardage and goal line. And he's going to be in on third down, depending on what personnel it is. And this was for the majority of the season. So we still have to practice and then you still have to play all the reps in the games. And you're playing against NFL competition. That season, I think we had to play the AFC North, which is always tough. That's the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Browns. And we played at Baltimore, which is always tough. And I think we might have played at Pittsburgh, which is always tough. And it's just Leon and I.
Yeah, the whole time.
So there's a lot of little nuanced stuff that people don't think about because they don't have to, especially now because you got fantasy football. Everybody's got their platforms to speak their minds about football and what they know. You got all these people on ESPN now. They're, saying this guy ran 25 miles an hour on this play. I mean, it's such a different game now. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, it's so crazy how football is so different than when I came in the league in 2000 when it was just about football.
Just about.
But I mean, that's with everything, there's always going to be evolution process. And, here we are.
So let's go back. Let's go back before you got to the NFL. But we already know the connection with your brother to Notre Dame, coming from Stone Gap, Virginia. You mentioned that. What was your recruitment like? Was Notre Dame an offer? Did you talk to Notre Dame? How did you end up at Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, my town is a very small town in Virginia. It's on the southwest corner of Virginia. So usually you hear about the Tidewater area, Michael Vick, Allen Iverson, and all those guys on the other side of Virginia. They're 9 hours from me. I'm on the very far west side of Virginia, on the opposite end. I'm 9 hours away from those guys. And so usually the recruiters, they go to that area first, Tidewater area, and then they'll trickle down from Northern Virginia to Richmond, and then to Roanoke. And then once they get to Roanoke, they really don't go too far past Roanoke into my area because it's just so small in comparison to the other places. So after my junior season, I had a really big year. I rushed for over 3,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, and we won the state championship. And so I was able to have a lot of heavy recruitment after that game. And it went from no one knowing who I am or where I'm from to every school pretty much in the country coming to my town, to my high school. And then my senior year, I rushed for over 3,000 yards again, 49 touchdowns. We won state again. But before my senior year, I had already committed to Notre Dame. They, Lou Holtz, and they recruited me really heavily after my junior season, and I committed to them. The way I went to Virginia was because that was the year Virginia beat Florida State. The first ACC loss Florida State had. That was my senior year. And so I'm from Virginia, and it's a great school. It's a great academic university. But I didn't really follow their football program that much. I was closer to the University of Tennessee because where I'm from in Virginia is about an hour away from Tennessee, 45-minute ride away from the Tennessee state line. I don't even fly into Virginia when I go home. I fly into Tennessee and drive across the state line into Virginia.
So that's close to Knoxville? Is that?
Yeah, I'm about 2 hours from Knoxville.
Right.
So most of the college games that I would go to as a kid would be the University of Tennessee games. So I was following Tennessee more than I was following Virginia, but I just kind of saw what they were doing. I saw that, they were kind of felt like they were building something there. And then Tiki Barber was there, and I was a fan of Tiki, and he had an incredible junior year, and I was like, hey, something is there, Virginia. I don't know. It may be good for me to stay home, and even though I'm the number one recruit in the state, and at that time I was ranked number 2, 3 in the country, top rated running backs. Out of the running backs, I was 2 or 3 in the top. I was ranked number 2 or 3. I was like, it could be cool to stay home, and hopefully I can bring some other top recruits from Virginia and elsewhere to come and help the home team. But that wasn't something that I was really adamantly thinking about. It was just an idea that I had. But they continued to get better, and then they won the ACC championship. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And so I think that process, and then they recruited me very heavily. I mean, we come to my school, they came to my house, and I decided to take a visit to Virginia. I only had one visit set up, and that was to Notre Dame, my official visit, and that's where I was going to sign because I committed already. But I went to Virginia the weekend before I went to Notre Dame, and I just had an incredible weekend there. Tiki Barber and Rondé Barber were my hosts. And
oh man, they hit you with Tiki and Rondé.
Yeah, Tiki, Rondé, and then Anthony Poindexter was incredible safety. And it was like, man, I felt like I was home. These are all guys from Virginia. I know which high school they went to because I played against some of those guys. And if I didn't play against them, I heard of their school. I heard of their towns. It just felt like I was home. It felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I told Virginia before I left that weekend. This was after the weekend after my state championship game. I told Virginia, I said, "Hey, I'm coming to Virginia." And so I had to go home and I had to call Lou Holtz and tell Lou that I wasn't coming. So that was a very tough call because we become family. Earl Mosley, the running backs coach, was almost at every one of my games, and Notre Dame is a big deal. And I basically told Notre Dame no to go to a smaller school and smaller football program. But it just in my gut felt like the right decision, and it was.
Do you think watching you go through that ultimately led to your younger brother deciding to go to Notre Dame?
Yeah, because he was Julius was on all of my visits. Everywhere I was, Julius was. I was the big brother that took my younger brother everywhere. Yeah. So all of my visits, everywhere I went, Tennessee, North Carolina, he was with me. So he went to Notre Dame when I went on my unofficial visit, and so he was already on their radar. And at that time he was a freshman, but he had a great high school career, and then he ended up choosing Notre Dame over Virginia. It was going to be Virginia or Notre Dame, and he chose Notre
Dame. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. That NIL would have hit different if you had to think about that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, NIL would have been real different, huh?
Right, you talk about college football being different. If Thomas Jones had to deal with NIL in his recruitment, how different do you think it would have been?
I think it would have definitely been different because part of my motivation was because at Virginia I knew Tiki was going to be a senior. I'd be a freshman. I could play next to Tiki as a true freshman because I told him I didn't want to redshirt. Notre Dame was not going to redshirt me, and Virginia wasn't either. Because my motivation was to make it to the NFL so I could, try to help my family. I have a big family, and you have a big family. Sometimes, you struggle. It's not enough for everybody, but you make it enough. So my motivation was to hopefully get to the NFL as soon as I could to make some money so I could help my family. And that's one of the bigger reasons why I went to Virginia, because I was like, in my mind, if I come to Virginia, I'll play behind Tiki my freshman year. I'll play my sophomore year, my junior year, and hopefully I'll have 2 great years, and then I'll be able to come out early in the draft. Where at Notre Dame, Autry Denson was there, and he was a freshman, and he would have been a sophomore. They also had, I think, 2 other backs that were there, and then they had a couple of backs that had committed as well. So it would have been maybe 4 or 5 of us competing for playing time. And I'm like, my family just doesn't have that much time to wait. And that's ultimately another reason why I decided to go to Virginia. It wasn't just for me. It was also, it gave me a better opportunity to in my mind, to get to the NFL to help my family.
Man, that's a fantastic story. Before we let you go, you have one of the most, I don't know if you know this, you have one of the most iconic still shots in Chicago Bears history.
Wow.
Other than the Walter Payton scissor kick, bro, or his run where he broke 10 tackles against.
I know the one. I know it like the back of my hand.
Bro, your hurdle in the NFC Championship game over defenders into the end zone in an NFC Championship game while the snow is falling. Like, dude, you talk about pure theater. That's exactly what the end of that game was. And for you to be running into the end zone, sending the Bears to a Super Bowl, talk about that moment and talk about the love you still, man. I see you on Twitter, #BearDown all the time. Just talk about the love that city still shows you and your relationship with the Chicago Bears.
Man, that NFC Championship game was the best game of my life. It was a dream. It was like, wow, how did I end up being the running back for the Chicago Bears in the NFC Championship game and hoping to take the team to the Super Bowl in the snow?
Right.
Because as a kid, you play in the snow and you're like, it's just nostalgic, you know what I'm saying? And that play, I mean, it was a busted play, and a reverse field. And I think by that time they were like, I guess they thought I was going to run out of bounds. And I was like, nah. I got a good block from Desmond, I think Des Clark. And I don't know what made me dive in the end zone. It was just like, I don't know. I think because it was the snow and just the diving in the end zone just was like, emphasizing how much fun that game was. And the Bears, I mean, you know, my career started in Chicago. I was drafted by the Cardinals, and that was you know, it was a tough place for me, but I needed to go somewhere like that to really help me realize, man, you're in the NFL now. Your goal was to get here to help your family. Now, what is your goal as an NFL player? You know, and I went through some tough times in Arizona, but it helped make me a better player and a better person, and more dedicated and a more determined player. And then I went to Tampa for a year, and then I ended up in Chicago. So that's where my career started. So the love that I get from the Bears fans, man, is like, because I only played there 3 years. And usually when you play somewhere 3 years, you don't really get the amount of the love that I get from the Bears fans in 3 years that I played is no different than the love that Olin or Brian Urlacher or Lance Briggs
like people
gets.
really recognize. They like, oh, that's you.
And it's amazing that they had that much love for me in a 3 year span. And I'm so grateful, so appreciative, because, you know, when you retire, you forget that you even played sometimes, besides your injuries and things like that, you know. But when I go on Twitter and it's Bears fans, and it's just, and also I didn't want to leave. You know, I did not want to leave. I wanted to stay. I wanted to finish my career there. I wanted to win multiple Super Bowls there. And obviously the business got in the way of that, and I was traded. But I think there's a connection. There will always be a connection there, because I think my personality and how I played and how I approached the game is blue collar, the same way that the city of Chicago is. I think the energy that I brought to the game and my personality and how much I love the game and appreciated the opportunity that I had to play in Chicago resonated with the fans. And I think that's why we're still so connected, because I want the Bears to win every game. I've never been embraced by anybody as I've been embraced by Bears fans. And I'm always grateful. I love them. It's Bear Down. Hashtag once a Bear, always a Bear.
Yeah.
You know, the city was just perfect for me, man. That was where I wish I would have been drafted there. You know, obviously they drafted Brian 2 picks after me, and I finally made my way there. But it was just perfect match.
That's awesome.
All right, before we let you go, once again, don't forget the docu-series Life After, hashtag Life After on Prime, October 18th on Amazon Prime, detailing the careers and the transition of 12 retired NFL players. Man, is this your first directorial production?
Yeah,
I know you have a production. You have a production company. Let people know about your production.
Yeah, I want to know about that, man.
Yeah. So I have a production company. It's called Midnight Train Productions, and my partner is Deji LeRae. We produced a feature film called Escape in Paradise that will be out hopefully over the next couple of months. We produce our own TV series on Bounce TV called Johnson. We co-produced that with Cedric the Entertainer and his company, A Bird and a Bear. And also Midnight Train Productions is one of the producers on this project, Life After, this docuseries. So I'm trying to build up my resume with my production company, Midnight Train Productions. I'm heavy into producing now, because a lot of times in Hollywood, you know, you're at the mercy of whatever the TV show is, and sometimes, especially for Black men, they have roles that portray us a certain kind of way, which is why Deji and I, you know, we're producing Johnson, which is a show actually about 4 Black men living in Atlanta, and it's a really dope show. It just shows our real life, honest life. You know, it's not the stereotypical guys that you see on TV or that you hear on the radio. It's just 4 honest guys just trying to make a living, best friends. They go through relationship issues, they go through friendship issues. You can actually download this app, Brown Sugar. You can see season 1 and season 2. We just finished season 2 last month. But yeah, we're trying to create content that we're passionate about, that speaks to our truth, that speaks to you know, the underserved community's truth, but it's also relatable, so everybody can connect to it, everybody can enjoy it. So yeah, Midnight Train Productions, man.
Midnight Train Productions. I'm gonna check it out. I'm checking it out.
Hey, Lee.
Check it out. Getting it.
Left, give me 1 second, right? Because we've been talking to Thomas for the last 40 minutes. Hey, Thomas, is Maine in there anywhere? Can I talk to Maine for a second? Let me talk to Maine for a second. I have a request for Maine. Hey, Maine, Maine, I need you to keep going at the Mercedes. Don't back off, bro.
Yeah, don't back off, man.
Just because she pulled away, don't back off, man. Don't back off that. Don't back off that. Keep going.
I'll tell Katori Hall, the creator, that you said that.
Right.
And I'll tell Maine when we hopefully get renewed for season 3. I'll make sure that Maine does not let up.
Yeah,
I'll keep that in my mind.
Pressure on it now, I'm telling
you. Right. And then Maine, I understand how you feel.
Yeah, we get all that.
Come on, we got. Don't go murderous on Lil Murder, bro. Don't do it. Don't hit them up. I know you got the streets at your hand.
Yeah.
You make the call. It's over with.
Yeah.
Give us a couple more seasons. A little Murder.
I'll see if Maine and Lil Murder can keep the peace. At least through season 3.
At least through season 3. Yeah, at least through season 3, man.
Man, Thomas Jones, man, we thank you for joining us today on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Man, Thomas Q. Jones on Twitter. Is that Instagram as well?
Yep, Instagram and Facebook.
And Facebook as well. It's been a pleasure. We appreciate you, and we look forward to having you back on to promote and talk about more great things with your production company in the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and I love your podcast, man. So keep shining, brothers. I appreciate you.
Yeah, Left is already out there in LA. He's doing his thing on All American.
We got to connect.
Man. Oh, man, dope.
He's trying to get his SAG card.
Congratulations, man.
I'm doing background stuff. Don't even worry about it. But we can talk though. We can talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll definitely talk, man.
And I appreciate you, man. And I'm out there in LA because my baby girl is out there in school. So when we come out there, we definitely have to break bread, bro.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, bro. That's Thomas Q. Jones joining us right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Let me tell you something. That's a quality brother.
Quality brother. Man.
Quality brother. I'm telling you, when I was a producer here in Chicago and he was here playing, he was one of the best dudes to deal with. Always cordial. Always very sharing with his time. And once again, we appreciate him for being able to join us on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Look, man, we got some top 3 to talk about as we close out the show. Yes, sir. Can Notre Dame, big recruiting weekend coming up, can Notre Dame close the deal and have a top 3 class in 2023? We'll talk about it in a few minutes right here. Lucky Lefty. We spin it. Notre Dame, Stanford, 6:30 p.m. Saturday night. I expect a blowout. Hopefully, they haven't played a complete game. Could this be the complete game we've been waiting for from this squad? Also, big recruiting weekend. Could this weekend go a long way to Notre Dame closing the deal and having a complete 2023 recruiting class and end up with a top 23 class as well? We see the way things are going in Norman, Oklahoma. The slide that the Sooners are on is impacting Peyton Bowen and his recruitment as he continues to show via social media that he's locked in to Notre Dame. Big-time recruits from St. Louis. We already have Christian Gray who's committed. He'll be in the building. Drake Bowen, he'll be in the building. C.J. Carr, he'll be in the building. 24, wide receiver, Jeremiah McClellan, Christian Brothers. Teammate to 23 target, running back, Jeremiah Love. They both will be in the building. And the number 1 wide receiver from St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri, Ryan Wingo. He's in the place to be, along with 24 commit from Glen Ellen, Illinois, Cam Williams. They're all in the building. Can't forget
Right.
the Hillman kid out of Virginia, since we just talked to one of Virginia's greatest high school and college running backs. He's coming to campus as well. I predict Notre Dame could leave this weekend as a program with 2 commitments on Saturday. With 2. Not only that, Shaun Lyons in the next coming weeks looks to be ready to announce his commitment. Notre Dame is in a really good spot with him in the 23 class. You could add Jeremiah Love. You could add Hillman. You could add Shaun Lyons. And recent reports are saying that Oklahoma quarterback commit, teammate of Peyton Bowen down in Denton Guyer, 23 quarterback Jackson Arnold, has mutual interest with Notre Dame. Could Notre Dame still be a top 3 class in 2023? I tell you one thing. If they flip Jackson Arnold, keep Peyton Bowen, add Jeremiah Love, and add Shaun Lyons,
and sneak up Samuel and Pemba.
We
leaving here with something.
Hey, I'm telling you, folks, don't sleep on Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
There's some things happening. There's some things happening. But the most important thing is we cannot have a slip up in October.
No.
You cannot have a slip up against Syracuse, Stanford, UNLV.
Run the
continue
table.
to build, continue to improve as a team. And it's a chance that you get back into the top 3 of the 2023 recruiting rankings.
That's right.
You have to feel good about that, Left.
That's right. I do. I'm excited. Ready to see how it goes.
We'll get you some film on Monday.
Yes,
but Tuesday, don't forget Monday, Players Lounge. We'll also get to some film on some new offers that Notre Dame has given out. And then also, we have our post-game show immediately after the game, Saturday night, Notre Dame, Stanford. It'll be a great one. How do you see it playing out? What's your prediction, Left?
Prediction on the game, I got us 28-14. No. I got it 24-35 Notre Dame.
Notre Dame has held each opponent a minimum of 8 points below their scoring average every game. Stanford averages 26 points per game, which puts them right at about 18. I'm saying Notre Dame wins 35-17.
Okay, so 7 under. Okay. I got them getting
35-17 Irish.
Okay.
35-17 Irish. If they just play the way they've been playing. If they play a complete game, the margin
I got it 35-10 like my boy Sensational. I got 35-10. We put out our good game.
Yes, sir. You know what time it is, bro.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing. Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you. You don't? No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, petty story of the day, brought to you by Onora Whisky, OnoraWhisky.com, that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhisky.com. Let me tell you something. I put the NFL on the petty train. I'm not going to do it again. Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears, man. The fact that you allow Justin Fields to continue to go out there and take punishment week after week after week when he is the only bright spot on that entire roster. Burn it all down. Burn the roster down. Burn the organization down. Burn Soldier Field down. Immediately. Everything about the Bears right now is all bad. All bad. Forget just Thursday night football as a package, which is awful.
Yeah,
Just
Thursday night football is awful.
Just awful football. Ryan Poles, what you've done with that roster and the position you've put your quarterback in, dude, I might give you a lifetime ticket for the petty train. Lifetime. Because it's super petty, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, bro. You got anybody before we get out of here? Oh, the question.
The Chicago thing is serious, though, because
yeah. Oh, facts. Let me tell you something, man. I'm going to go ahead and make my choice. I'm going to choose Erykah Badu because I think she has multiple top-notch albums. I'm going to take Erykah Badu over Jill Scott today.
I think that's the right choice, man. Honestly, Jill Scott's great, but like I like Jilly with when I'm listening with my mom or something. Erykah Badu, she got some stuff that I might put on a playlist.
You might put on a playlist.
She got a song with Drake. She got a whole little mixtape I like. Call my phone mixtape, real nice, real good vibes for a Saturday. So check it out. I might go Badu too.
I mean, she puts hexes on rappers. That makes you think twice. Like rappers literally change their lives after they get into a relationship.
Look at Andre 3000.
Common.
Yeah, look at Common.
Jay Electronica just went and disappeared.
Yeah.
Before he came back, they got back on the scene. So, I mean, the woman actually sells candles, bro, that are related to her personnel. So, that just lets you know.
Yeah, let you know a lot.
It's an entirely different vibe, man. Don't forget, subscribe, share, let everybody know. Lucky Podcast, fastest growing podcast centered around Notre Dame football. We're on the march to 3,000, and it's because of you, LL Nation. We appreciate you. Most of all, make sure that you have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. And it's spin it different, man.
That's right.
If you don't live life, spin it different. Lucky Lefty Podcast. We'll see you after the game with the post-game show. You dig?